The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor. Then his fist connected with her face, in front of 200 people. At a charity gala, while she was 8 months pregnant. What happened next would destroy a millionaire's empire and shock the world. Victoria Hayes thought she was hiding her secret perfectly. Designer clothes covering bruises, smiles masking terror. But when her husband Marcus Sterling attacked her at the most public event of the year, everything changed. 500 assaults over 3 years. That's what doctors would discover. 500 times she suffered in silence. 500 times she thought she deserved it. But this time her billionaire father was watching. And he was about to show Marcus Sterling what real power looks like. This is a story about survival, about justice, about a woman who thought she was broken, discovering she was actually unbreakable. Stay with me, because what happens in the next 90 minutes will remind you that speaking truth is the most powerful weapon we have. Let's begin. The champagne glass shattered first. Then his hand connected with her face. Victoria Hayes heard the crystal explode against marble before she felt the blow. Sharp, fast. The sound echoed across the ballroom like a gunshot. Everything stopped. 200 guests in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos froze mid-conversation. The string quartet's violins faded to silence. Even the waiters stopped moving, trays suspended in midair. Victoria's hand flew to her cheek. Her emerald gown suddenly felt too tight around her 8-month pregnant belly. The room tilted. No, not here. Not in public. Marcus Sterling grabbed her arm. His fingers dug into her flesh hard enough to leave marks. His breath smelled like whiskey and rage. You think I didn't see you? His voice was low, controlled. The voice he used right before things got worse. Laughing with him, touching his arm. Marcus, please. Victoria's voice came out small, scared. She hated how scared she sounded. He's just a colleague. We were discussing the hospital expansion project. Another hand flew, this time catching her temple. Stars exploded behind her eyes. Don't lie to me. She stumbled backward. Her heel caught on the hem of her dress. She was falling. Instinct made her wrap both arms around her belly. Protect the baby. Always protect the baby. Strong hands caught her before she hit the floor. Not Marcus's hands. Security. The crowd erupted into chaos. Voices overlapping. Someone screamed. Cameras flashed. The gala for the Children's Hospital charity had just become something else entirely. Sir, you need to step back. The security guard's voice was firm. Marcus shook him off. His face was red, furious, but already shifting, already calculating. Victoria had seen this transformation 100 times before. Public Marcus emerging from private Marcus. There's been a misunderstanding. Marcus smoothed his jacket, smiled, that charming smile that fooled everyone. My wife is feeling unwell. The pregnancy, you understand. Blood dripped from Victoria's split lip onto her dress, dark red on emerald green. Ma'am, are you all right? Another security guard knelt beside her ear. Victoria opened her mouth, closed it. What could she say? The truth? Here? Now? Her hands shook as they pressed against her belly. The baby kicked, strong, alive. Thank God. She swallowed, tasted copper. I need an ambulance. More voices, more movement. Someone wrapped a jacket around her shoulders. The ballroom blurred into a kaleidoscope of concerned faces and flashing phones. Everyone was recording this. Everyone would know. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, something shifted deep in her chest, a small crack in the wall she had built around her fear. They would all see now. Finally. No more hiding. Marcus was shouting, claiming she had tripped, claiming he was trying to help. His lawyer voice, his I'm the victim voice. Nobody was listening. Paramedics arrived. Efficient hands guided her onto a stretcher. Questions about the baby, about pain, about how many times he hit her. I don't know, she whispered. I stopped counting. The lie tasted bitter. She knew exactly how many times. Tonight made 503. Flashing lights outside the venue painted everything red and blue. Red and blue. Like bruises. Like her life. A black town car screeched to a halt at the curb. The door flew open before the car fully stopped. William Hayes emerged like a storm given human form. 60 years old with silver hair and eyes that could cut glass. Her father, billionaire, self-made, intimidating to everyone except her. Victoria. His voice cracked on her name. She had never heard her father's voice crack before. He reached the stretcher in 3 long strides. His hands hovered over her face, not quite touching, as if she might break. "Daddy." The word came out small, childlike. She hadn't called him that in years. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here now." He turned to the paramedics. "Which hospital?" "Presbyterian." "I'm riding with her." Nobody argued with William Hayes. The ambulance doors closed. The siren wailed. Victoria's hands trembled. She counted the tremors. 1, 2, 3, lock, unlock, lock, the phantom gesture of checking her phone for threatening messages. Even without the phone in her hands, her fingers made the motion. William noticed. He always noticed everything. Too late, but he noticed now. "How long?" he asked quietly. Victoria closed her eyes. 3 years. The silence that followed was heavier than anything Marcus had ever thrown at her. The hospital lights were too bright, too white, too exposing. Victoria lay on the examination table while Dr. Diane Carter pressed the Doppler wand against her swollen belly. The baby's heartbeat filled the room. Fast, strong, alive. 145 beats per minute. Dr. Carter's voice was professional, but warm. "That's good. That's very good." Victoria exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Dr. Carter set down the wand and picked up her tablet. Her fingers moved across the screen, documenting, recording, building evidence. "Victoria, I need to examine you thoroughly, with your permission." "Yes." Victoria's voice was steady now, stronger. "Yes, document everything." Her father stood in the corner of the room, back turned to give her privacy. His shoulders were rigid, his hands clenched at his sides. Dr. Carter worked methodically, checking Victoria's face, her arms, her ribs, each touch gentle but thorough. "This bruising on your jaw is fresh from tonight." Dr. Carter's voice was neutral, clinical. "But these marks on your ribs, these are older." Victoria stared at the ceiling tiles, counted them. 27 visible squares. "How much older?" William's voice came from the corner, tight, controlled. "Weeks, maybe months for some of them." Dr. Carter moved to Victoria's arms. "These defensive wounds. Do you know what defensive wounds are, Victoria?" "When someone tries to block getting hit." "Yes, exactly." Dr. Carter's voice softened. "These bruises aren't from tonight." The walls Victoria had built for 3 years began to crumble. Not all at once, just small cracks spreading outward like ice breaking on a frozen lake. "I'm not crazy." The words came out fierce, certain, a validation whisper she needed to hear in her own voice. "This wasn't the first time. I just got good at hiding it." Dr. Carter met her eyes. "You're not crazy. You survived." A knock on the door. A police officer entered, young, female, with kind eyes and a notebook. "Mrs. Sterling? I'm Officer Martinez. I need to take your statement when you're ready." Victoria nodded. Ready, she was ready. The statement took 30 minutes. Describing tonight, describing the pattern, the escalation, the control, the fear. "He monitors my phone," Victoria said. "Yeah, man. He knows where I go, who I see, what I spend, everything." Officer Martinez wrote it all down. "Has he ever threatened to hurt you if you left?" "Every day. He says no one would believe me, that his lawyers would destroy me, that he'd take the baby." Victoria's hand moved to her belly again, protective. "That he'd make sure I never saw my child." "That's not going to happen." William's voice was steel-wrapped in velvet. "Mr. Sterling has been arrested," Officer Martinez said. "He's being held pending arraignment. We're requesting he be held without bail, given the severity of the assault and potential flight risk." Arrested. Marcus was arrested. The relief was so intense it felt like drowning in reverse, like surfacing after being underwater too long. But relief brought something else. Fear. Marcus arrested meant Marcus angry. Marcus in a cage meant Marcus would do anything to get out. "He'll make bail," Victoria said. "He always has connections." "Not this time." William's voice promised something dark and final. Not ever again. Dr. Carter finished her examination, cleaned into Victoria's wounds, applied butterfly bandages to the cut on her lip. I'm admitting you overnight for observation, Dr. Carter said. The baby is stable, but I want to monitor both of you. Stress and trauma can cause complications. Victoria nodded, too tired to argue. They moved her to a private room, third floor, window facing the city lights. William pulled a chair to her bedside and sat, father and daughter, separated by years of distance, connected by blood and regret. I should have known. William's voice was raw. I should have seen it. I didn't want you to see it. Victoria's throat tightened. I thought I could handle it. I thought love meant sacrifice. Love never means suffering in silence. The machines beeped, the baby's heartbeat, Victoria's pulse, rhythms of survival. Hours passed. Nurses checked vitals, brought ice water, adjusted pillows. The city outside shifted from chaos to quiet. At 2 a.m, Victoria lay alone in the dim room. Her father had finally agreed to go home. Shower, change, come back in the morning. The breathing room she needed. She listened to the baby's heartbeat on the monitor. Steady, constant, a promise of tomorrow. Her hand rested on her belly. The baby kicked. Once, twice, as if to say, we're still here. We survived. Victoria closed her eyes, let tears fall. Silent, cleansing. The door opened softly. A young woman slipped inside. 20-something, professional clothes, nervous eyes. Mrs. Sterling? The woman's voice was barely a whisper. I'm Nina. Nina Reeves. I work for Marcus. Victoria's heart rate spiked. The monitor betrayed her fear. Please don't be afraid. Nina raised her hands. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help. Wait, why? Nina pulled a burner phone from her pocket, set it on the bedside table. Because I recorded everything, every meeting, every phone call, every time he planned how to control you. Nina's voice shook. I was afraid too, but after tonight, after seeing what he did to you in public, I can't be silent anymore. Victoria stared at the phone, small, black, ordinary, containing extraordinary evidence. There are recordings on that phone going back 2 years, Nina said, including one from last week where he planned the Gala assault. He knew you were getting stronger. He wanted to break you publicly, put you back in your place. The words should have hurt. Instead, they clarified. It confirmed what Victoria already knew deep down. Marcus's violence was never about loss of control. It was always about maintaining it. Why help me? Victoria asked. Nina's eyes filled with tears. Because I have a little sister, and if someone ever hurt her the way Marcus hurt you, I'd want someone to be brave enough to speak up. She moved toward the door, paused. The code is 4729, his birthday, the arrogance. Nina smiled bitterly. I'm leaving the company tomorrow. Starting fresh. You should do the same. The door clicked shut. Victoria was alone again. But not alone. The phone sat on the table. Evidence, ammunition, truth. She picked it up, unlocked it. 4729. Audio files filled the screen. Dozens of them, dated, labeled. Her finger hovered over the most recent one. Last week, planning Gala assault. She pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room, cold, calculating, discussing her like she was a problem to solve rather than a person to love. She threatened to leave again. I'll handle it at the Gala. Public humiliation works best. She'll fall in line. Another voice. His lawyer. Are you sure that's wise? Her father is William Hayes. Her father hasn't given a damn about her for 30 years. He won't start now. Victoria's hand tightened on the phone. Wrong, Marcus. So wrong. She stopped the recording. Lay back on the pillows. Stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would give this phone to the police, to her father's lawyers, to anyone who needed proof. Tonight she would rest. The baby kicked again, strong, determined. We're going to be okay, Victoria whispered to her belly. I promise. We're going to be free. For the first time in 3 years, she believed it. Morning light filtered through the hospital blinds, soft, golden, deceptive in its peace. Victoria woke to find her father already in the chair beside her bed. He held 2 cups of coffee and a determined expression. Decaf, he said, offering her one. Doctor's orders. She took it, sipped. The warmth helped. You never left, did you? Victoria asked. William's silence was answer enough. Dr. Carter entered for morning rounds, checked the baby, checked Victoria, cleared her for discharge with strict instructions for rest and follow-up appointments. You're coming home with me, William said. It wasn't a question. Victoria didn't argue. Marcus knew her apartment, knew her routines, knew how to find her. The Hayes estate was 45 minutes outside the city, gated, secure, safe. James Thornton, her father's head of security, drove them. Former FBI quiet, competent. The kind of man who noticed everything and said little. Ma'am, James said, meeting her eyes in the rearview mirror, I'll be coordinating your security personally. No one gets through who shouldn't. Thank you. The estate appeared as they crested the hill, stone and glass, modern and classic. The house she'd grown up in before her mother died, before her father buried himself in work, before the distance between them became an ocean. Her old bedroom was exactly as she'd left it. Teenage Victoria's sanctuary preserved like a museum. I'll have your things brought over, William said. Whatever you need from the apartment. I need everything that's mine. Victoria's voice was firm. He doesn't get to keep any part of me. William nodded, made a phone call. Within an hour, a moving team was dispatched. Victoria sat on her old bed. The comforter still had the same floral pattern. The bookshelf still held the architecture texts she had studied. This room held the girl she used to be. Before Marcus. Before fear became her constant companion. Becca Morrison arrived before noon. Victoria's college roommate, best friend, the sister she'd chosen. Becca took one look at Victoria's face and burst into tears. I'm so sorry. Becca pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of the bruises. I'm so sorry I didn't push harder. I knew something was wrong. I should have. You tried, Victoria said. I wasn't ready to hear it. They settled in Victoria's room like old times, cross-legged on the bed, coffee and tissues between them. I need to tell you something, Becca said. I've been investigating Marcus for 6 months. Victoria's head snapped up. What? For an expose on tech industry abuse, financial misconduct, treatment of employees. Becca pulled out her tablet. But the more I dug, the more I found, including 5 women who worked at his company who left suddenly with NDAs and settlements. 5 women, 5 other victims. Victoria's stomach turned. I couldn't publish anything without more evidence, Becca continued. But now, after last night, they might be willing to talk. He's done this before. Victoria's voice was flat, hollow. To other women. Yes, the word hung between them. Victoria stood, walked to her closet, pushed past old clothes until she found it. A shoebox tucked in the back corner, inside her old phone, the one Marcus made her replace 2 years ago. Claimed it was outdated, bought her a new one he controlled. She powered it on, waited for it to boot up. Messages loaded, old texts to Becca, deleted on the new phone, preserved on this one. Becca, I think something's wrong with Marcus. He gets so angry. Becca, he apologized, said it won't happen again. Becca, I can't talk about this anymore. Please stop asking. Becca, I'm fine. Really, stop worrying. The messages documented her dissent, her denial, her isolation. Victoria showed the phone to Becca. I forgot I had this. Becca read the messages. Tears tracked down her face. You were calling for help, Becca whispered. And I didn't hear you loud enough. I didn't want you to hear me. I wanted to believe my own lies. Victoria took the phone back, stared at it. God, I was so stupid. The signs were all there. The inner voice, authentic, raw. You weren't stupid, Becca said fiercely. He was calculated. That's different. Victoria sank onto the bed, the weight of 3 years crushing down. Let me show you something, Becca said, opened her tablet, pulled up files, photographs, documents, testimonies from former employees. Marcus Sterling isn't just abusive in relationships, Becca explained. He's abusive in every aspect of his life. Employees afraid to speak up. Assistants working 20-hour days. Financial irregularities that suggest embezzlement. Victoria scrolled through the evidence, saw the pattern. The same tactics Marcus used on her, he used on everyone. Control through fear, isolation through power, silence through intimidation. I need to talk to those women, Victoria said, the ones who took settlements. Are you sure? Yes. Victoria's voice was certain now, strong. Because if I stay silent, he does this to someone else, another wife, another victim. Becca made calls, reached out to contacts. By evening, 2 of the 5 women had agreed to video calls. The first woman, Sarah, appeared on screen. 40 years old, composed, carrying scars that didn't show. Thank you for agreeing to talk, Victoria said. I saw the video, Sarah replied, from the gala. It's all over social media. And I thought, enough. I'm done protecting him. Tell me what happened. Sarah's story unfolded. Hired as Marcus's director of marketing 5 years ago. Talented, ambitious, excited for the opportunity. Within months, the behavior started. Late-night calls, inappropriate comments. Then physical intimidation, backing her into corners, blocking doorways, making her afraid. I reported it to HR, Sarah said. They brought in lawyers, Marcus's lawyers. They offered me a settlement and an NDA, told me if I refused, they'd destroy my career. So you took it. I took it, and I've regretted it every day since. Sarah's voice cracked, because I knew he'd do it to someone else. The second woman, Jennifer, told a nearly identical story. Different job title, same pattern, same threats, same silence bought with money and fear. He has a type, Jennifer said. Talented women he can control, women who are too professional, too afraid of being labeled difficult to fight back hard enough. Victoria saw herself in their stories. The mirror reflected back her own experience. After the calls ended, Victoria sat in silence. Becca watched her carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking he made a mistake. Victoria's voice was cold, determined. He made his violence public. He can't buy silence anymore. Everyone saw. Her father knocked, entered when Victoria called. The moving team finished, William said. Your belongings are in the guest suite, and the police called. Marcus made bail. The words hit like a physical blow. What? Victoria stood. How? His lawyers argued he wasn't a flight risk. Posted $2 million bail. William's jaw tightened. He's out, with an ankle monitor, restraining order in place, but out. Terror spiked through Victoria's chest. Marcus free meant Marcus dangerous. He can't come near you, William said quickly. James has security monitoring. If Marcus gets within 500 feet, we'll know immediately. Victoria's hands shook. She hid them in her lap. Becca moved closer, took her hand. He wants me afraid. Helen, Victoria said, that's the whole point. Keep me afraid. Keep me silent. Are you? William asked. Afraid? Victoria met her father's eyes, saw the question beneath the question, saw the man who'd missed her childhood trying desperately to protect her now. Yes, she admitted, I'm terrified, but I'm also furious, and fury is stronger than fear. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the estate grounds, secure, protected, a gilded cage of her own choosing this time. I want to press charges, Victoria said. Criminal charges, not just a restraining order. I want him to face consequences. Done, William said. My lawyers are already preparing the case, and Becca's investigation. We can use that. He'll fight, Victoria said. He'll claim I'm lying, that I'm unstable, that pregnancy makes women irrational. Let him try. William's voice promised retribution. I've built empires, Victoria. I know how to dismantle them, too. That night, Victoria couldn't sleep. She lay in her childhood bed, staring at glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, 30 years old and hiding in her father's house like a scared child. But she wasn't a child anymore. She was a mother. Almost. In weeks, she'd hold her daughter who would never know fear as a constant companion, who would never accept violence as love, who would grow up strong and unafraid. Victoria placed both hands on her belly, felt the baby move, alive, strong, counting on her. I'm not crazy. she whispered to the darkness. I know what I saw. I know what I survived. And I'm going to make sure he never does this to anyone else. And the validation whisper. The truth she needed to speak aloud. Tomorrow she would start building her case. Tonight, she would rest. For the first time in 3 years, she slept without Marcus beside her. The relief was so profound it felt like resurrection. The law offices of Morrison and Associates occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower in downtown. Williams' attorneys, the best money could buy. Ruthless in pursuit of justice. Victoria sat in a conference room surrounded by lawyers, tablets, and evidence. Her new reality. Lead attorney Catherine Morrison was 60 years old with steel gray hair and a reputation for destroying opponents in court. Mrs. Sterling, Catherine began, let's be clear about what we're facing. Your husband is wealthy, connected. His legal team will be aggressive. I understand. They'll paint you as unstable, vindictive, a woman scorned using her father's resources to destroy an innocent man. Victoria's jaw tightened. I expected that. Good, because expecting it means we can counter it. Catherine opened her tablet. Let's start with what we have. The evidence spread across the table. Medical records from Dr. Carter, photographs of injuries, police reports, Nina's recordings, testimonies from Sarah and Jennifer. The recordings are particularly damaging, Catherine said. They show premeditation, intent to harm. That elevates this from assault to something more serious. How serious? William asked. Aggravated assault, potential attempted murder given Mrs. Sterling's pregnancy. If we can prove he intended to cause harm to the fetus, that's additional charges. Victoria's hand moved to her belly, protective, always protective. James Thornton entered the conference room carrying additional files. I've pulled surveillance from the Gala venue, James said. Multiple angles show the assault clearly, no ambiguity, and I've traced Marcus's movements for the past month. He's been monitoring Victoria's locations through her phone's GPS. How? Victoria asked. He installed tracking software. With his level of access to your phone, it was simple. James set down printouts. Every place you went, every person you met, he knew. The violation felt physical, intimate. He'd been inside her phone, her privacy, her life. Can we use this? Victoria asked. Absolutely, Catherine said. It establishes stalking behavior, obsessive control, pattern of abuse. The meeting lasted 3 hours, building the case brick by brick, evidence stacking into an insurmountable wall. But Marcus had walls too. Money, power, connections. His legal team will leak to the media, Catherine warned. They'll try to control the narrative, paint him as the victim. Let them try, Becca said. I'm publishing my exposé tomorrow. Once it's out, the narrative shifts. Victoria looked at her best friend. Are you sure? This could damage your career. My career is about truth, Becca said. This is the truth. Besides, I've been working on this for months. It's ready. That night, Victoria returned to the estate, exhausted, overwhelmed, but not broken. She found her father in his study, the room she'd been forbidden to enter as a child, sacred space for business, for deals worth millions. Can I come in? She asked. William looked up from his desk, gestured to the chair across from him. Victoria sat. The chair was leather, worn, comfortable in a way that spoke of hours spent here. I owe you an apology, William said. Dad? No, let me finish. He set down his pen, looked at her with eyes that held regret. I wasn't there for you. After your mother died, I buried myself in work, told myself I was building something for your future. But the truth is I was running from grief. Victoria's throat tightened. By the time I looked up, you were grown, independent. I thought you didn't need me anymore. William's voice cracked. I was wrong. I did need you, Victoria admitted. I needed you to teach me what love looked like, what respect looked like, what a good man looked like. Instead, you found Marcus. Instead, I found Marcus. Victoria took a breath. I thought I could handle it. I thought love meant sacrifice. Love never means suffering in silence. William repeated his words from the hospital. I know that now. They sat in silence, father and daughter, rebuilding bridges burned by time and distance. I'm going to destroy him, William said finally. Not just legally, financially, professionally, socially. When I'm done, Marcus Sterling will have nothing. That's not justice, Victoria said softly. That's revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. No, justice means he faces consequences through the legal system. Justice means his victims get vindication. Justice means no one else gets hurt. Victoria leaned forward. Revenge means you become like him. William studied his daughter, saw strength he'd helped create and wisdom he hadn't. When did you get so smart? He asked. I had to be. Survival required it. A knock on the study door. James entered with his ever-present tablet. We have a situation, James said. Marcus's legal team just filed motions claiming Victoria is mentally unstable due to pregnancy. They're requesting psychiatric evaluation and supervised visitation with the child when it's born. Victoria's blood turned to ice. He wants access to my baby? He's claiming parental rights, James said. The restraining order doesn't affect custody arrangements if he's not convicted. Over my dead body. Victoria stood, fury rising, hot, righteous. He doesn't get to hurt me for 3 years and then claim rights to my child. We'll fight it, William said. Catherine will file counter motions. But Victoria, you need to be prepared. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. I don't care. Victoria's voice was steel. He's not touching my daughter, ever. The word hung in the air. Daughter. First time she'd said it aloud. It's a girl? William asked softly. Victoria nodded, tears stinging her eyes. I found out 2 weeks ago. I didn't tell Marcus. Didn't want him to know. Wanted something that was just mine. William crossed the room, pulled her into a careful hug. She's going to be fierce, he whispered. Like her mother. Victoria let herself be held, let herself be someone's daughter again. But the moment shattered with her phone ringing. Unknown number, she answered. Hello? Victoria, Marcus's voice, smooth, charming, dangerous. We need to talk. Don't call me. Victoria's hand shook. The restraining order prohibits physical contact, not phone calls to my wife. Ex-wife, I filed for divorce. You'll always be mine. His voice dropped, threatening. You think your father can protect you? You think lawyers matter? I made you, Victoria. I own you. You own nothing. Victoria's voice steadied, fury overtaking fear. You're a small man who hurts women to feel powerful. That's all you are. That's all you'll ever be. She hung up, blocked the number, turned to James. Document that call, she said. Violation of restraining order. I want charges added. James nodded, already typing. Victoria sank into a chair. Her hands finally stopped shaking. I need to do something, she said. I can't just hide here waiting for court dates. I'll go crazy. What do you want to do? William asked. Victoria thought. What did she want? Beyond safety, beyond justice, beyond revenge? I want to work, she said. I'm an architect. I had projects, clients, a career Marcus made me abandon. Your office equipment arrived earlier, William said. I had it set up in the garden suite. If you want to work, work. Victoria felt something shift, purpose, direction. She wasn't just a victim waiting for rescue. She was a professional, a creator, a woman who built things. Thank you, she said. That night, Victoria sat in the garden suite surrounded by her drafting table, her computer, her materials, the tools of her trade, her identity beyond wife, beyond victim. She opened her email for the first time in months. Marcus had controlled her accounts, read her messages, monitored her communications. 147 unread emails, many from former clients, asking about projects, asking if she was still working, asking if she'd abandoned them. She began typing responses, carefully, professionally, and explaining she was returning to work, available for consultations, ready to build again. By midnight, she'd responded to everyone, reconnected, reestablished herself. The baby kicked, strong, approving. We're going to be okay, Victoria whispered. I'm going to build us a life, a real one, free. She placed both hands on her belly, the mirror moment she needed. The connection to her unborn daughter who deserved better. who would get better. Tomorrow, Becca's article would publish. The world would know Marcus's truth. Tonight, Victoria reclaimed her identity, one email at a time, one project at a time, one breath at a time. Freedom wasn't instant, it was built. Brick by brick, like architecture, like justice, she was ready to build. Becca's article dropped at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. The headline dominated every news site within an hour. Silicon Valley's dark secret, tech mogul Marcus Sterling's pattern of abuse. Victoria read it on her tablet over breakfast. Becca had written with surgical precision. Interviews with 5 former employees, documentation of financial irregularities, testimony from Sarah and Jennifer, timeline of Victoria's own abuse pieced together from public records and private sources. The evidence was damning, undeniable. By 8 a.m., Marcus's company stock had dropped 12%. By 9, the board of directors called an emergency meeting. By 10, social media exploded. #Believe Victoria trended worldwide. Victoria watched the world wake up to Marcus's truth from her father's study. William sat beside her. Silent support. He's going to retaliate, Victoria said. Let him. William's voice was granite. The retaliation came at noon. Marcus's legal team held a press conference. His lead attorney, a shark named Richard Castellano, stood at a podium surrounded by cameras. Marcus Sterling is the victim of a coordinated attack by his estranged wife and her billionaire father, Castellano said. His voice was smooth, practiced, convincing. Mrs. Sterling is suffering from severe prenatal depression. She has falsely accused my client to gain advantage in their divorce proceedings. He displayed medical records, therapy notes, private information that should have been protected. These records show Mrs. Sterling has been treated for anxiety and depression. Her therapist notes indicate paranoid thinking and emotional instability. Victoria's hands clenched. He stole my medical records. That's illegal, William said, already on his phone to Catherine. The press conference continued. Castellano painted Marcus as a devoted husband driven to distraction by his wife's illness. The Gala incident was reframed as Marcus trying to help Victoria, who had become hysterical. Witnesses were produced, friends of Marcus who swore he was gentle, kind, concerned about his unstable wife. Mrs. Sterling's own behavior contradicts her claims, Castellano said. She remained in the marriage willingly, became pregnant, i.e. willingly. These are not the actions of an abuse victim. The victim blaming was textbook, expected, still painful. Victoria's phone exploded with messages. Friends, former colleagues, people she hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had an opinion. Some believed her, others questioned. Many stayed silent, waiting to see which side would win before committing. By afternoon, counter-narratives flooded social media. Pro-Marcus accounts appeared, sophisticated, coordinated, obviously bought. He's running a campaign, Becca said over video call, a digital reputation management firm. They're creating fake accounts, posting doubt. It's textbook. Can we stop it? Victoria asked. We don't have to stop it. We just have to be louder. Becca's eyes gleamed with journalistic determination. I'm reaching out to other outlets. Major networks want interviews. If you're ready. Victoria wasn't ready, but readiness was a luxury she couldn't afford. Set them up, she said. The first interview was scheduled for the following day. National morning show, live television, millions of viewers. Catherine coached Victoria that evening, preparing her for aggressive questions, teaching her to stay calm, to speak clearly, to show strength without anger. They'll ask why you stayed, Catherine said. They'll ask why you didn't leave sooner. They'll ask if you're doing this for money. What do I say? The truth simply, without apology. Catherine's voice softened. You're not on trial here, Victoria. Remember that. But it felt like a trial, court of public opinion, jury of millions, verdict that would determine her daughter's future. That night, Victoria stood in front of the mirror, practicing, watching her expressions, controlling her fear. I stayed because I thought I could fix him. Her reflection spoke the words back. I stayed because leaving an abuser is when they're most dangerous. I stayed because he convinced me no one would believe me. The girl in the mirror looked tired, scared, pregnant, vulnerable, but she also looked determined, unbroken, Fierce. I deserve better than this. The validation whisper. My baby deserves better. Morning came too quickly. James drove Victoria to the studio. William insisted on coming. Moral support hidden behind stoic silence. The green room was cold, uncomfortable. A makeup artist touched up Victoria's face, covering bruises that had faded to yellow, making her camera ready. The host, Amanda Chen, entered. Warm smile, calculating eyes, professional charm. Mrs. Sterling, thank you for being here. Call me Victoria, please. Victoria, are you nervous? Terrified. Amanda's smile became genuine. Good. That means you care. Just tell your truth. I'll handle the rest. The studio was smaller than Victoria expected. Lights, cameras, 2 chairs arranged intimately, millions watching from living rooms and phone screens. The interview began. Amanda asked the expected questions. Victoria answered with practiced calm, describing the gala, the pattern, the fear, the silence. Why did you stay? Amanda asked. The question everyone wanted answered. Victoria took a breath. Because leaving an abuser is the most dangerous time. Statistics show women are 75 times more likely to be murdered when they try to leave. I knew that. Marcus reminded me of it constantly. He threatened to kill you? Not directly. He was too smart for that. He threatened to take my child, to destroy my career, to make sure no one believed me. Those threats worked for 3 years. What changed? Victoria's hand moved to her belly. She did. My daughter. I could survive Marcus hurting me. I couldn't survive him hurting her. The truth. Simple. Devastating. Amanda leaned forward. Marcus Sterling's lawyers claim you're mentally unstable, that pregnancy hormones have made you irrational. Pregnancy didn't make me irrational. It made me finally rational enough to leave. Victoria's voice was steel. Abusers always claim their victims are crazy. It's the oldest playbook in history, but 500 documented assaults aren't crazy. They're evidence. The interview lasted 20 minutes. Victoria walked off set, shaking but intact. William met her in the green room, pulled her into a hug. You were perfect, he said. I barely held it together. No one could tell. You were strong, clear, believable. The interview aired the next morning. Overnight, public sentiment shifted. Believe Victoria intensified. Marcus's defenders grew quieter. But Marcus wasn't done fighting. That afternoon, Victoria was ambushed by paparazzi outside Dr. Carter's office. Cameras, shouting questions, blinding flashes. Victoria, is it true you're seeking money from Marcus? Victoria, do you regret marrying him? Victoria, what do you say to people who think you're lying? James pushed through the crowd, protective, efficient, got her to the car. Victoria sat in the back seat, hands trembling, breathing exercises to stay calm. The baby kicked, distressed, sensing her mother's stress. I'm sorry, sweetheart, Victoria whispered. I'm so sorry. Back at the estate, Victoria retreated to the bathroom, ran a bath, hot, almost scalding, needed to feel clean. The breathing room moment, after the case, after the exposure, after the performance, she sank into the water fully clothed. The dress absorbed heat, weight, dragged her down. This was what depression felt like, what exhaustion felt like, what fighting for survival felt like. Victoria didn't know how long she sat there. Minutes, hours, time lost meaning. A knock on the door. Victoria, her father's voice, concerned. I'm okay. You don't sound okay. She wasn't okay, but okay was relative. She was alive. That counted. Victoria drained the tub, changed into dry clothes, emerged to find her father waiting. Becca called, William said. 3 more women have come forward. Former employees willing to testify. 3 more. 8 total. A pattern impossible to deny. Marcus's company board fired him, William continued. Emergency vote, effective immediately. They're distancing themselves, protecting the brand. Justice, real, tangible, beginning to materialize, but it wasn't enough, not yet. I need to talk to those women, Victoria said. All of them, together. Survivors united. Are you strong enough for that? Victoria met her father's eyes. I have to be, because if I fall apart now, he wins, and I'm done letting him win. That night, 8 women gathered on a video call, united by pain, bonded by survival. They shared stories, compared scars, found validation and recognition. He told me no one would believe me, Sarah said. He said the same to me, Jennifer added. Me too, Victoria said. But he was wrong. We believe each other. That's enough. The shared experience moment, the recognition that she wasn't alone, that her pain was real, valid, worth fighting for. By midnight, they'd formed a plan, coordinated testimony, support system, witnesses for each other's truth. Victoria ended the call feeling less alone than she had in 3 years. Her daughter kicked, strong, approving. We're building something, Victoria whispered to her belly. Not just a case, a movement. No more silence, no more shame. She had to choose between her dignity and her security once. Both felt impossible to lose, but the baby had kicked, and the choice became clear. Dignity won, security would follow. But first, dignity. Always dignity. The contractions started at 3 in the morning, sharp, regular, too early. Victoria woke gasping, hands flying to her belly, 8 months pregnant. The baby wasn't due for 6 weeks. Dad! Her voice cracked with fear. William appeared in seconds. Years of light sleeping after her mother's death made him alert instantly. What's wrong? Contractions, 5 minutes apart. His face went pale. I'll call the ambulance. No time. Drive me. The estate was 45 minutes from the hospital. Too long, but faster than waiting for paramedics. James drove. William sat in the back with Victoria, timing contractions, calling ahead to Dr. Carter. The baby was in distress. Victoria knew it instinctively. Maternal intuition screaming danger. Please hold on, she whispered to her belly. Please, baby, not yet. You're not ready yet. But her body had other plans. Stress, trauma, the constant fight or flight response. It had taken its toll. Dr. Carter met them at the emergency entrance. Wheelchair, swift movement, efficiency born of crisis. How far apart? Dr. Carter asked. 3 minutes now. Let's get you upstairs. The labor and delivery floor was quieter than Victoria expected. Middle of the night, just medical staff and fear. They settled her in a room. Monitors, IV lines, the baby's heartbeat irregular. Concerning. We need to stop the labor, Dr. Carter said. The baby's lungs aren't fully developed. 6 more weeks would be ideal. She administered medication. Magnesium sulfate, to relax the uterus, to buy time. Victoria lay back, breathing through contractions that came despite the medication. Her body betraying her again. Is she going to be okay? Victoria asked. We're doing everything we can. Not an answer, a deflection, medical training hiding truth behind procedure. Hours passed, dawn light through the window. The contractions slowed but didn't stop. William paced, phone in hand, making calls, ensuring security, ensuring Marcus stayed away, because Marcus had violated the restraining order twice already. Calls, emails, anonymous accounts messaging Victoria, harassment disguised as concern. At 8 a.m., the hospital security called up to the room. Mr. Sterling is in the lobby, the guard said, demanding access, claims parental rights. Victoria's blood pressure spiked. The monitors screamed, alarms blaring. Get him out, William's voice was deadly calm. Now, or I'm calling the police. We've already called them, sir. He's refusing to leave. Dr. Carter swore. Rarely, professionally. But this warranted it. Stress is triggering the labor, she said. We need her calm. We need him gone. James appeared in the doorway. I'll handle it. He left. Victoria heard shouting from below, angry voices, then silence. James returned 15 minutes later, knuckles slightly red. He's been arrested, James said simply. Restraining order violation. He won't make bail this time. Victoria should have felt relief. Instead, she felt nothing. Emptiness where fear used to live. The contractions intensified despite the medication. The baby wasn't waiting, stress or readiness. Either way, she was coming. We need to prep for delivery, Dr. Carter said. The baby's heart rate is dropping. We can't wait any longer. Emergency C-section, surgical team assembling, consent forms signed with shaking hands. Can my father stay? Victoria asked. In the delivery room now. Carter looked at William. That's unusual. Please, I need him. Dr. Carter nodded. Scrub in, quickly. They wheeled Victoria to surgery. Bright lights, cold table, hands positioning her, curtain blocking her view of her own body. William appeared at her head, masked, gowned, terrified beneath professional calm. I'm scared, Victoria whispered. I know, sweetheart, but you're the strongest person I know. The anesthesiologist worked quickly. Epidural, numbness spreading, sensation fading below the curtain. You'll feel pressure, Dr. Carter said, but no pain. The surgery began, sounds Victoria didn't want to identify, medical language she didn't understand. William held her hand, squeezed tight, anchoring her to consciousness. Almost there, Dr. Carter said. One more minute. Then a cry, tiny, furious, alive. It's a girl, someone said. Unnecessary announcement. Victoria already knew. They lifted the baby briefly, blood-covered, scrunched face. Beautiful. Perfect. Too small. She's 3 pounds, 12 ounces, a nurse said. Breathing on her own, that's good. They whisked her away to NICU. Standard procedure for premature births. Victoria tried to sit up, couldn't. Still numb, still open, still being stitched back together. Go with her, Victoria told her father. Don't leave her alone. William hesitated, torn between daughter and granddaughter. Go, Victoria insisted. I'm okay. Make sure she's okay. He went, following the incubator, following the tiny life they'd both fought to protect. Victoria lay on the table, tears streaming down her face into her hair. Relief, terror, joy, exhaustion. You did beautifully, Dr. Carter said. She's strong, like her mother. They finished the surgery, moved Victoria to recovery, alone except for nurses checking vitals. The breathing room she needed, after the crisis, after the birth, after survival. She pretended to be asleep when the nurse checked her. Tears silent on the pillow, processing, breaking down. What if she lost the baby? What if stress killed her? What if Marcus's violence had consequences Victoria couldn't fix? The dark thoughts spiraled. Depression, exhaustion, post-surgical confusion. Hours later, William returned, his face transformed, softened. She's perfect, he said. Tiny, but fighting. They have her on oxygen, feeding tube, but the doctors are optimistic. Can I see her? Soon, once you're stable. Victoria closed her eyes, pretended to be asleep again, needed the privacy of grief and fear. William sat beside her shed, silent vigil, making up for 30 years of absence with 3 hours of presence. Evening came. They wheeled Victoria to NICU in her hospital bed, too weak to walk, too determined to wait. The NICU was quiet, dimmed lights, beeping monitors, incubators lined up like small spaceships. Her daughter lay in one. Wires, tubes, so small, impossibly small. Victoria reached through the porthole, touched the tiny hand, smaller than her thumb, the baby's fingers wrapped around hers. Instinct, connection, life. Hi, sweetheart, Victoria whispered. I'm your mama. I'm so sorry I couldn't keep you safe longer. But you are here now, and you are going to be okay. We both are. The baby's eyes opened briefly, unfocused, searching. I'm going to protect you, Victoria said. No one will ever hurt you. Not Marcus, not anyone. You're safe now. I promise, obeys. The validation whisper, the promise to her daughter, to herself. What if I can't protect her? Victoria asked her father. What if he gets custody? What if he won't? William's voice was absolute. I'll die before I let him near her. You can't promise that. Watch me. Victoria's breakdown came fully then. Sobs that shook her stitches. Grief for what should have been. Terror for what might come. William held her carefully, mindful of surgery, patient with tears. I'm done being afraid, Victoria said when she could speak. He took 3 years. He almost took my daughter. He doesn't get any more. No, he doesn't. They named her Hope, Victoria Hayes, named for what she represented, for what she'd given her mother. Hope spent 3 weeks in NICU, growing, strengthening, fighting. Victoria spent those weeks living in the hospital, pumping breast milk, learning to be a mother, building strength for the battles ahead. Marcus remained in jail, bail revoked, restraining order violations adding time to his sentence. The trial date set for 6 weeks out. Victoria used the time to prepare, physically, emotionally, legally. By the time Hope was released from the hospital, Victoria had transformed, not back to who she was before Marcus, into someone new, someone stronger, someone unafraid, someone ready to fight. The baby kicked in her arms, alive, thriving, a miracle of survival. "We did it," Victoria whispered. "We're free." Not yet. Not legally, not permanently, but free in the ways that mattered. Free from fear, free from silence, free from believing his lies. The rest would come. Justice, victory, peace. For now, freedom was enough. Becca's second expose published while Victoria recovered at the estate with Hope. This one more devastating than the first. The Sterling conspiracy, systematic abuse and financial fraud. The article detailed Marcus's embezzlement, $2.3 million siphoned from his own company over 4 years, hidden in shell corporations, laundered through real estate purchases, money used to control, to threaten, to buy silence. The CC opened an investigation within hours, federal charges pending. Marcus's legal troubles multiplied exponentially. Victoria read the article while nursing Hope. Her daughter latched perfectly now, 6 pounds, healthy, home. "Your timing was terrible, little one," Victoria whispered to the baby, "but your existence saved me." Hope's dark eyes watched her mother, trusting, innocent, unaware of the war being fought around her. William entered the nursery, knocked softly despite the open door, always respecting boundaries now. "The lawyers called," he said. "The trial date moved up, 3 weeks instead of 6. Judge wants this resolved quickly given the media attention." "I'm ready." "Are you?" William looked at his daughter, at his granddaughter. "Victoria, you just had surgery. Hope is barely a month old. No one would blame you for delaying." "I would blame me." Victoria adjusted Hope's position. "Every day Marcus stays free, he's dangerous. To me, to other women, to the truth." She wasn't wrong. Marcus had attempted contact 17 times from jail. Letters intercepted. Phone calls blocked. Messages sent through intermediaries. Each contact a violation. Each violation adding charges. "His company is bankrupt," William said. "Board voted to dissolve. Shareholders filing civil suits. His reputation is destroyed. The success win, Marcus's empire crumbling. His carefully constructed facade shattered." But Victoria wanted more than financial ruin. She wanted legal accountability, criminal conviction, justice. "James compiled a report," William continued. "Security footage from Marcus's office building. Shows him entering Victoria's workspace after hours, 12 times over 6 months. When I worked there," Victoria's voice was flat, "before he convinced me to quit. He was surveilling you, installing monitoring software on your work computer, reading your emails." The pattern extended further back than Victoria realized. 3 years of marriage. But surveillance started before that, during courtship, during the illusion of romance. Marcus hadn't fallen in love. He'd identified a target, isolated her, captured her. The realization was both horrifying and clarifying. "I need to see those videos," Victoria said. "Are you sure?" "Some of them are." "I need to see them, all of them." That afternoon, James set up a secure viewing room. William insisted on being present. Catherine Morrison joined them, building the case, documenting every violation. The videos played chronologically. Marcus entering Victoria's locked office using a master key, accessing her computer, photographing documents, installing hardware keyloggers. "This was before you were married," Catherine noted. "He was already planning control." "Premeditated," Victoria said. Everything was premeditated. More videos, Marcus following Victoria home from work, sitting in his car outside her apartment, documenting her routines. "Classic stalking behavior," James said. "Obsessive, dangerous." The final video showed Marcus meeting with his attorney, Date stamped 2 weeks before the wedding. The audio was clear, damning. "I need an ironclad prenuptial agreement," Marcus said. "Everything stays mine. She gets nothing if the marriage ends." "And if she refuses to sign?" the attorney asked. "She won't refuse. I'll time it right. Day before the wedding. Too embarrassed to cancel. Too invested to walk away." "That's coercive. That's smart business." Victoria's hands clenched. The prenup she'd signed in her wedding dress, hours before the ceremony. Too ashamed to admit doubt, too afraid to lose him. Not love. Manipulation. "This invalidates the prenup," Catherine said. "Signed under duress, coercion. A judge will throw it out." More ammunition, more evidence, more truth emerging from shadows. The session lasted 4 hours. Victoria watched her courtship reframed. Not romance, but reconnaissance. Not love, but predation. When it ended, she felt hollowed out, grieving the girl who'd believed in fairy tales, honoring the woman who'd survived reality. "I need air," Victoria said. She walked the estate grounds, baby monitor in her pocket. Hope napping in the nursery under James's watchful security. The lake house appeared through trees. Childhood refuge. Place of peace. Victoria sat on the dock, feet dangling in cold water. October chill biting through her sweater. Breathing room. Processing. Letting truth settle into bones. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "You can't hide forever." Marcus, despite blocked numbers, despite jail, despite restraining orders. He found ways, always finding ways. Victoria's first instinct was fear. Heart racing, hands shaking, then anger. Hot, righteous, cleansing. She forwarded the message to Catherine, to James, to the prosecutors building the case. Evidence, more charges, more consequences. But she also responded, directly, deliberately. "I'm not hiding, I'm preparing. See you in court." She blocked the new number, deleted the message, refused to let him occupy space in her mind. The baby monitor crackled, hope stirring, needing her mother. Victoria returned to the house, to her daughter, to the life she was building from ruins. That night, Catherine called with news. "We found his first wife," she said, "the one he claimed died." "She's alive?" "Very much alive, living in Seattle under a new name. He told you she died in a car accident?" "Yes, he said she died 2 years before we met." "She divorced him 7 years ago, restraining order, settlement with NDA, but she's willing to break it, willing to testify." Another victim, another pattern, and another piece of the puzzle. "Her name is Elizabeth Crawford," Catherine said. "She wants to talk to you, if you're comfortable." Victoria was comfortable, more than comfortable. She needed to meet the woman who had survived Marcus before her. The video call happened the next day. Elizabeth appeared on screen, 45 years old, composed, carrying invisible scars. "Thank you for speaking with me," Victoria said. "Thank you for fighting him." Elizabeth's voice was steady. "I couldn't. I took the money, signed the silence, ran." "You survived. That's enough." "Is it?" Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. "I knew he'd do it again. I knew, and I said nothing. You couldn't have known I'd be next. But I suspected. Men like Marcus don't change. They refine." Elizabeth told her story. Marriage that started as fairy tale. Charm giving way to control. Love letters becoming surveillance. Romance becoming prison. "The first time he hit me, I was pregnant," Elizabeth said. "I miscarried 3 days later. He blamed me, said I was too emotional, too weak, too dramatic." Victoria's hand moved to Hope, sleeping in the bassinet beside her. "Protection, always protection. I left after the miscarriage," Elizabeth continued. "His lawyers made me sign papers. Take money, disappear, change my name. You became invisible. Somewhere along the way, I became invisible. The validation whisper, the shared experience. But seeing your courage, seeing you fight publicly, it made me want to be visible again." "Will you testify?" Victoria asked. "Yes, I'll testify. I'll tell the truth. I'll make sure he never does this to anyone else." 2 survivors, 8 employees, dozens of witnesses. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus's attorneys requested a plea deal. Catherine refused. "We're going to trial," she said. "Full accountability, no bargains." The public pressure intensified. Protests outside the courthouse demanding justice. Counter-protests claiming Marcus's innocence. The case became a referendum on believing women, on holding powerful men accountable. Victoria did what she always did when overwhelmed. She organized. At midnight, she reorganized the kitchen drawers. Spoons with spoons, forks with forks, order from chaos. Her father found her, gently took the spatulas from her hands, held her while she sobbed. "I'm so tired," Victoria whispered. "I'm so tired of fighting." "I know, sweetheart, but you're winning." "Am I?" "He's still trying to control me, still finding ways in." "He's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes." William was right. Marcus's mistakes were multiplying. The surveillance videos leaked to press. His coerced prenup became headline news. His false claim about a dead wife dominated social media. Public opinion solidified. Marcus Sterling was not a victim. He was a predator. But predators didn't stop hunting just because people noticed. 3 nights before the trial, someone tried to breach the estate's security, triggered alarms, fled before James's team could intercept. They found a note taped to the gate. "You took everything. I'll take it back." Marcus or someone acting on his behalf. Either way, a threat. Security doubled. James moved into the estate full-time. Armed guards patrolled the grounds. Victoria held Hope tighter, fed her, rocked her, sang lullabies that were really prayers. "Keep her safe. Please keep her safe." The trial loomed. 3 days, then justice or failure. Freedom or continued fear. Victoria looked in the mirror, saw the woman she'd become, not the girl Marcus had targeted, not the wife he'd broken. Someone new, someone stronger, someone ready. Starting over felt impossible, she whispered to her reflection, but staying felt worse. The validation whisper, the truth that sustained her. Tomorrow the trial began. Tomorrow she would face Marcus in court. Tomorrow she would speak her truth for the world to hear. Tonight she would rest, gather strength, prepare for war. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Hope, about Elizabeth, about Sarah and Jennifer and the 8 women who'd come forward, about every woman who'd suffered in silence, every victim told she was crazy, every survivor fighting for believed. Victoria would fight, not just for herself, for all of them. The trial would be her testimony, her voice, her truth. And truth, she'd learned, was the most powerful weapon she had. The courthouse steps were crowded. Cameras, reporters, protesters holding signs. Half read justice for Victoria. The other half claimed innocent until proven guilty. Victoria's hand trembled as she gripped her father's arm. Hope was safe at the estate with James and a team of guards, separated from her mother for the first time since birth. The separation felt physical, like losing a limb. "You ready?" William asked quietly. She took a deep breath. "I have to be." Catherine Morrison walked ahead, clearing path, professional shield against chaos. The courtroom was smaller than Victoria expected. Wood paneling, uncomfortable benches, American flag hanging beside the judge's bench. Marcus sat at the defense table in an expensive suit. His lawyer, Richard Castellano, whispered instructions, preparing their defense. Victoria sat across the aisle, hands folded, breathing exercises to stay calm. Judge Patricia Carmichael entered, 60 years old with iron gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "All rise." The trial began. Opening statements painted 2 different realities. The prosecution's methodical timeline of abuse, the defense's narrative of the disturbed woman weaponizing her father's wealth. "The evidence will show systematic violence," the prosecutor said. 500 documented assaults over 3 years. Premeditation, control, terror. "The evidence will show a woman with mental health issues," Castellano countered. "A woman using pregnancy as a shield. A woman whose powerful father orchestrated this entire narrative. 2 truths, only one real." The prosecution called witnesses, friends who'd seen bruises, colleagues who'd noticed Victoria's isolation, neighbors who'd heard fights through walls, Each testimony built the case, brick by brick, truth by truth. Then Dr. Carter took the stand. She walked to the witness box, white coat crisp, professional demeanor unshakable. Dr. Carter, you've been Mrs. Sterling's obstetrician for how long? The prosecutor asked. 2 years, throughout her pregnancy and before. During your medical examinations, what did you discover? Dr. Carter opened her medical file. Her face was grave. When Mrs. Sterling came to the emergency room after the Gala assault, I performed a comprehensive examination. What I found was deeply disturbing. She paused, looked at the jury. Based on my medical examination and forensic analysis of old injuries, I estimate Mrs. Sterling endured approximately 500 separate physical assaults during her 3-year marriage. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs. Judge Carmichael banged her gavel. Dr. Carter continued, her voice steady and damning. The pattern of healed fractures, scar tissue, and documented injuries tells a story of systematic, repeated violence. We found evidence of 12 previously broken ribs that had healed improperly. A fractured cheekbone from approximately 1 year ago. Repeated contusions consistent with being struck with closed fists. Defensive wounds on her forearms and hands. Cigarette burn scars on her back. Internal scarring suggesting blunt force trauma to her abdomen while pregnant. Victoria closed her eyes, hearing it listed like that. Clinical, scientific, undeniable. The prosecutor asked, 500 assaults, that's an average of how many per week over 3 years? Dr. Carter's face was grim. Approximately 3 assaults per week, sometimes daily, sometimes multiple times per day. And Mrs. Sterling continued to come to her prenatal appointments seemingly normal? Yes, she wore long sleeves, makeup, sunglasses indoors. Classic signs of abuse that I should have caught sooner. Dr. Carter's voice cracked slightly. I failed her. The system failed her. In your professional medical opinion, Dr. Carter, was the Gala assault an isolated incident? Absolutely not. It was simply the first time he couldn't hide what he'd been doing for years. Castellano's cross-examination was brutal. Dr. Carter, how can you be certain these injuries came from my client? Couldn't they be from accidents? Sports injuries? Dr. Carter looked at him coldly. Mr. Castellano, I've been an obstetrician for 20 years. I've treated thousands of women. I know the difference between someone who fell downstairs and someone who was pushed. I know the difference between a sports injury and a closed fist. She gestured to the medical photo projected on screen. These injuries have a pattern, a signature, the same angle of impact, the same locations targeted repeatedly. Defensive wounds consistent with someone trying to protect themselves and their unborn child. The defense attorney pressed. But 500 is an estimate, correct? Not an exact number. It's a conservative estimate based on documented medical evidence. The actual number is likely higher. Many victims don't seek treatment. They hide, they suffer in silence. Dr. Carter looked directly at Victoria. Mrs. Sterling was incredibly brave to survive this. Most victims don't make it to 500 assaults. The statistics for pregnant women facing domestic violence are horrifying. She's lucky to be alive. Her baby is lucky to be alive. Nina Reeves testified next, young, nervous, determined. I was Mr. Sterling's executive assistant for 2 years. The prosecutor played audio recordings. Marcus's voice cold and calculating. She threatened to leave again. I'll handle it at the Gala. Public humiliation works best. She'll fall in line. Another recording. Keep her away from her friends, especially that journalist. Check her phone daily. I want to know everyone she talks to. Nina's voice shook. He planned everything. The isolation, the control, even the violence was calculated. Why are you coming forward now? Because I was afraid too. He monitored everyone around him. But after the Gala, after seeing what he did to a pregnant woman in public, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Elizabeth Crawford testified about her marriage to Marcus. The pattern, the violence, the threats, the forced silence. Seeing Mrs. Sterling's courage gave me the strength to break my silence, Elizabeth said. He's a predator, a calculated, systematic abuser, and he will do this again if you don't stop him. The prosecution built their case methodically. Securities fraud charges, financial forensics, witness testimony, text messages, security footage. Then it was Victoria's turn. She walked to the witness stand on shaking legs, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. The truth. Finally. Completely. Without fear. The prosecutor's questions were gentle but thorough. "Mrs. Sterling, can you describe the night of the gala?" Victoria's voice started soft, grew stronger. "We arrived at 7. Marcus had been drinking in the car. I spoke to a colleague, a male architect I'd worked with on a project. Marcus became angry. He grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks. He pulled me to a corner of the ballroom. Then he hit me repeatedly, in front of 200 people, while I was 8 months pregnant with his child." "Why did you stay in the marriage for 3 years?" Victoria took a breath. "Because I thought I could fix him. I stayed because leaving an abuser is when they're most dangerous. I stayed because he convinced me no one would believe me. I stayed because I was ashamed." She paused, looked at the jury. "I'm not ashamed anymore." Several jurors nodded slightly. The validation whisper. The truth she needed to speak publicly. Starting over felt impossible, but staying felt worse. Castellano's cross-examination was designed to break her. Questions about her mental health, her therapy, her relationship with her father, her motivations. "Isn't it true you're seeking a large financial settlement from my client?" "I'm seeking safety for my daughter and justice for his victims." "You claim my client was abusive, yet you stayed, you married him, you became pregnant. Why would a woman stay with an abusive man?" The question hung in the air, the oldest victim blaming tactic. Victoria looked directly at him. "I stayed because I thought I could fix him. I stayed because I was ashamed. I stayed because he convinced me it was my fault. I stayed because leaving an abuser is the most dangerous time. I stayed because I loved who he pretended to be." She paused. "But I left because my daughter deserved better. And so did I." The courtroom was silent. When Victoria stepped down, her father met her at the rail, squeezed her hand. "You were perfect," he whispered. She wasn't perfect, but she was honest, and honesty was enough. The trial continued for 3 more days. Expert witnesses on domestic violence, financial experts on Marcus's fraud, character witnesses painting portraits of 2 very different men. Public Marcus, private Marcus, Jekyll and Hyde in expensive suits. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. Victoria waited in a private room with her father and Becca. Hope safe at the estate, but video linked so Victoria could see her daughter. "Whatever happens," William said quietly, "we've told the truth. The world knows now." Victoria placed a hand on her belly. Habit, even though Hope was no longer there. "She'll grow up knowing her mother fought back," Victoria whispered. That's enough. But she hoped for more. She hoped for justice. The bailiff called them back to the courtroom. "The jury has reached a verdict." Victoria's heart hammered. This was it, the moment everything changed, or didn't. Judge Carmichael addressed the foreman. "Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?" "We have, Your Honor." "On the charge of aggravated assault, how do you find?" "Guilty." The word echoed through the courtroom. Victoria's breath caught. "On the charge of stalking, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the charge of witness intimidation, how do you find?" "Guilty." Guilty on all counts, every charge, a complete conviction. Marcus's face crumbled, rage and disbelief warring for dominance. Victoria felt nothing. No triumph, no relief, just exhaustion. Judge Carmichael set sentencing for 2 weeks out. Marcus was remanded into custody immediately. No more bail, no more freedom. Catherine hugged Victoria, professional boundaries dissolving in shared victory. "You did it," Catherine said. "You held him accountable." Victoria nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Questions shouted from every direction. Catherine made a brief statement. Victoria stood beside her, silent, present, victorious. "Justice was served today," Catherine said. "Not just for Victoria Sterling, but for every victim of domestic violence who suffers in silence. This verdict sends a message. Abuse will not be tolerated. Silence will not be enforced. Truth will prevail. They drove back to the estate. Victoria watched the city pass. Freedom looked different than she expected. Quieter, more complicated. Hope was crying when they arrived. James met them at the door with the baby. "She's been fussy. I think she missed her mama." Victoria took her daughter, held her close, breathed in baby smell, life, future, freedom. "We did it, sweetheart," Victoria whispered. "We won." Hope stopped crying, looked at her mother with dark, trusting eyes. That night, Victoria sat in the nursery, rocking Hope, singing lullabies, processing victory. The truth win. Everyone finally saw Marcus for who he really was. His facade shattered completely, his victims vindicated. But victory felt hollow. 3 years couldn't be returned. Innocence couldn't be restored. Trauma didn't disappear with a verdict. Healing would take time. Years, probably. Maybe a lifetime. But she had time now. And safety. And hope. Always hope. Sentencing day arrived 2 weeks later. Victoria returned to the courthouse, this time without fear. The verdict had freed her from that. Hope stayed home again. Too young for this. She'd learn the truth someday, but not today. Judge Carmichael presided. Same courtroom, different energy, justice instead of judgment. Marcus stood for sentencing. Orange jumpsuit instead of expensive suit. Diminished. Defeated. The judge addressed him directly. "Mr. Sterling, I've been on the bench for 25 years. I've seen men like you before. Charming in public, monsters in private. The evidence presented in this case was among the most disturbing I've encountered." She paused. Let the words sink in. "You systematically abused multiple women. You planned violence. You weaponized intimacy. You targeted vulnerability. You represent everything our justice system exists to stop." Marcus's lawyer attempted mitigation. Childhood trauma, work stress, mental health issues. Judge Carmichael was unmoved. Trauma doesn't excuse causing trauma. Stress doesn't justify violence. Mental health issues don't give you permission to torture others. She delivered the sentence. On the charge of aggravated assault, 15 years. On the charge of stalking, 5 years consecutive. On the charges of witness intimidation, securities fraud, and violation of restraining orders, additional 10 years consecutive. 30 years total. Marcus would be 65 when released, if he lived that long. Furthermore, Judge Carmichael continued, "You are permanently prohibited from contacting the victims. Permanent restraining orders for Victoria Sterling, Elizabeth Crawford, and all women who testified. You will register as a violent offender. You will attend mandatory counseling." Oh, she looked at Marcus with undisguised disgust. "I hope you use these 30 years to understand the damage you've caused, to develop empathy you clearly lack, to become the person you pretended to be." Marcus was led away, handcuffed, defeated, no longer powerful, just pathetic. Victoria watched him go, felt nothing, no triumph, no anger, nothing. He was simply gone. Removed from her life, from Hope's life, from the world. Outside the courthouse, victim advocates held a small ceremony, celebrating the verdict, honoring survivors. Elizabeth Crawford approached Victoria, hugged her. "Thank you," Elizabeth said, "for having the courage I didn't." "You had courage," Victoria replied. "You survey, that's the hardest part." Sarah and Jennifer joined them. Then Nina, all 5 women who testified, united in survival. They posed for a photograph. Not victims, survivors, winners. The dignity win. Victoria had maintained grace throughout, while Marcus imploded publicly. While his world crumbled, while justice prevailed, she hadn't become like him, hadn't let hatred consume her, hadn't lost herself in revenge. She'd simply told the truth, and truth was enough. The weeks after sentencing were strange, quiet. Victoria had spent 3 years in crisis mode, survival instinct constantly activated. Now peace, safety, freedom. She didn't know what to do with it. Her architecture practice restarted slowly. Former clients returned. New projects emerged. She specialized in designing women's shelters, domestic violence crisis centers, safe spaces, building sanctuary from blueprints, creating safety in steel and concrete. "You're good at this," her assistant said, looking at designs for a new shelter in Queens. "I understand what they need," Victoria replied. "Security, privacy, hope. Always hope." She attended therapy twice weekly, processing trauma, learning to trust again, understanding that survival was just the beginning. Healing was the journey. "You're doing remarkable work," her therapist said. "Most people don't face their trauma this directly." "I don't have a choice. I have a daughter. She deserves a healthy mother." "You deserve a healthy you, not just for hope, for yourself." The concept was radical. Deserving health, deserving peace, deserving happiness. Victoria was learning to believe it. Becca's final article in the Marcus Sterling series published 6 months after the trial. What happened after? One survivor's journey. It profiled Victoria's transformation, her architecture practice, her advocacy work, her healing. Victoria Sterling refuses to be defined by what happened to her, Becca wrote. She's defined by what she's building, for herself, for her daughter, for other survivors. The article went viral. Speaking requests flooded in. Advocacy organizations reached out. Survivors wrote letters, hundreds of them. Victoria read every letter, responded when she could, offered resources, shared hope. One letter particularly moved her. "I saw you on TV during the trial. I've been married to my abuser for 10 years. I have 3 children. I thought I couldn't leave, but seeing your courage gave me courage. I left last month. My kids and I are safe now. Thank you for showing me it's possible." Victoria kept that letter, framed it, hung it in her office, proof that speaking truth changed lives, not just hers, everyone who heard her. 1 year after the Gala assault, Victoria organized an event, benefit dinner for domestic violence awareness. Same venue, same ballroom, reclaiming the space, rewriting the narrative. She stood at the podium, Hope in a bassinet nearby, 1 year old, healthy, happy, safe. "A year ago, I stood in this room as a victim," Victoria began, her voice steady, strong. "I was assaulted by my husband in front of 200 witnesses. That assault changed my life." She paused, looked at the crowd, many familiar faces, some who'd witnessed that night, others who'd supported her journey. "I used to think that night was my lowest point, my breaking point. But I was wrong. That night was my turning point." She told her story, not all of it. The parts that mattered, the parts that might help someone else. "Leaving wasn't the end of my journey. It was the beginning. Healing isn't linear. Some days I'm strong. Some days I cry in the shower. Some days I'm both." The audience listened, rapt, understanding. "But every day I'm free, and freedom is worth fighting for." The wisdom moment, the realization that emerged naturally from her journey. "I finally understood that the prison door had been unlocked all along. I'd been my own warden, but the key was believing I deserved freedom." Standing ovation. 200 people applauding survival, celebrating courage, honoring truth. Victoria looked at Hope, her daughter watching with curious eyes, too young to understand, but someday she would. Someday Victoria would tell Hope about this journey, about survival, about strength, about how her mother fought for their freedom. But today, she just smiled at her daughter, and her daughter smiled back, pure, innocent, hopeful, always hopeful. 2 years after the trial, Victoria stood in her own apartment, not her father's estate, not Marcus's house, her own space, earned, chosen, free. The architecture practice had grown. 6 employees now, major contracts, recognition in industry publications, success built from ruins. Hope was 2 years old, walking, talking, fearless. "Mama, up!" Hope demanded, arms raised, expecting to be obeyed. Victoria laughed, picked up her daughter, spun her around. "You're getting heavy, little one." "I'm big now." Big, growing, safe, everything Victoria had fought for. The doorbell rang. Becca arriving for coffee. Weekly ritual. Sisters by choice maintaining connection. Hope. Becca entered with presence. Always presence. Spoiling her goddaughter shamelessly. Auntie Becca! They settled in Victoria's living room. Sunlight streaming through windows. Plants thriving. Life blooming. You look happy, Becca observed. I am happy. Is that allowed? Victoria asked. It's required. They laughed, drank coffee, watched Hope play with blocks, building, creating, dreaming. I have news, Becca said. The Sterling expose won a Pulitzer. Victoria's eyes widened. Becca, that's incredible. It's our story, your courage, my journalism. Together we changed the conversation about domestic violence. You changed it, I just survived it. Survival is revolutionary. Becca squeezed Victoria's hand. Never forget that. Victoria's relationship with her father had transformed too. Weekly dinners at the estate. Hope adoring her grandfather. William making up for missed time with relentless devotion. She has your mother's eyes, William said one evening, watching Hope chase fireflies in the garden. She has her own eyes, Victoria replied. She's completely herself. Like her mother. Victoria smiled, accepted the compliment. She was herself now, not Marcus's wife, not a victim, just Victoria, architect, mother, survivor, woman. Dating was complicated, Victoria tried. Online profiles, coffee dates, awkward conversations where she had to explain her past without letting it define her present. Some men couldn't handle it, threatened by her strength, uncomfortable with her trauma, scared of her truth. Others fetishized it, wanted to be her savior, her rescuer, her hero. Victoria wanted neither. She wanted a partner, equal, respectful, understanding without pitying. She didn't find him immediately, but she wasn't desperate. She'd learned to be alone without being lonely. Hope was enough. Her work was enough. She was enough. 3 years after the gala, Victoria received an unexpected call. Mrs. Sterling? This is Warden Davidson from Rikers Island. Marcus Sterling has requested to speak with you. Victoria's heart rate spiked. 3 years of peace. And still his name triggered physiological response. What does he want? She asked. He claims he wants to apologize, make amends, as part of his rehabilitation program. Victoria laughed, bitter, hollow. Tell him no. Tell him I don't accept his apology. Tell him to work on himself for his own sake, not mine. Tell him I don't think about him anymore. The last part was mostly true. She thought about him less. Days passed without remembering, without flinching at sounds, without checking locks obsessively. Healing was progressive, not complete, but enough. I'll relay the message, the warden said. Victoria hung up, looked at Hope playing with dolls, naming them, creating stories, imagining worlds. Her daughter would never meet Marcus, would never know his voice, would only know safety, love, respect. That was victory. Complete. Final. Victoria's advocacy work expanded. She spoke at conferences, consulted on legislation, helped design training programs for police and healthcare workers. You're changing systems, Catherine Morrison said, now friend instead of attorney. Not just helping individuals. Individuals change systems, Victoria replied. Every person who speaks up, every survivor who refuses silence, every ally who believes victims. We're creating something new. A movement, a shift, a cultural change, one voice at a time, one truth at a time, one survivor at a time. 4 years after the gala, Victoria attended another gala. Different cause, same venue, full circle. She wore green again. Not emerald, sage, softer, wiser. Hope was home with William, 4 years old, painting with her grandfather, creating masterpieces for the refrigerator gallery. Victoria moved through the crowd, confident, unafraid, transformed. A woman approached, young, nervous, fearful eyes Victoria recognized. Excuse me, the woman said. Are you Victoria Sterling? I am. I saw your TED Talk about surviving domestic violence, about building new lives. The woman's voice shook. My husband, I think I need help. Victoria took the woman's hand, led her to a quiet corner. When you're ready, Victoria said gently, call me. You deserve better. She gave the woman her card, contact information for shelters, hotlines, resources. I'm scared, the woman admitted. I know, I was scared too, but fear isn't permanent. Freedom is possible. The woman left. Victoria watched her go, hoping she'd call, knowing she might not, understanding the journey was personal. But she'd planted a seed, offered hope, shown possibility. Sometimes that was enough. Victoria returned home that night, paid the babysitter, checked on Hope, sleeping peacefully, clutching a stuffed elephant, dreaming safe dreams. She stood in her daughter's doorway, watching, grateful. 5 years ago, she thought love meant sacrifice, thought suffering was romantic, thought silence was survival. Now she knew better. Love meant respect, suffering was trauma, silence was death, speaking truth was resurrection. She died in Marcus's hands, been reborn in her own, created life from ash, built hope from ruins. Her daughter kicked in her arms. Not hope, memory of pregnancy, ghost sensation. Victoria smiled, remembered that scared pregnant woman at the gala, remembered the fear, the pain, the impossible courage required to leave. That woman had saved them both. Thank you, Victoria whispered to her past self. You were braver than you knew. She closed Hope's door, walked to her own bedroom, her sanctuary, her space. No more checking locks 3 times, no more panic cleaning at midnight, no more pretending to be asleep to avoid conversation. Just peace. Hard-won, precious, real. Victoria looked in the mirror, saw the woman she'd become. Not the girl Marcus had targeted, not the wife he'd broken, not even the survivor she'd been. Someone new, someone whole, someone free. She saved herself, she whispered to her reflection. She fought, she surrendered, she built something beautiful from ruins. The final validation, the ultimate truth. Victoria Sterling had transformed from victim to victor, from silence to voice, from fear to freedom. And that transformation rippled outward, touching lives, changing systems, creating hope, not revenge, transcendence, not just survival, revolution. She finally understood. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She'd been her own warden, but she'd also been her own liberator. The key was believing she deserved freedom. And now she was free. Completely. Finally. Forever. Hope sleeping peacefully down the hall. Father reconciled, career thriving, voice amplified, truth vindicated. Everything Marcus tried to take, she'd rebuilt. Better, stronger. Hers. Victory looked like this. Saturday morning. Coffee brewing. Daughter laughing. Sunlight streaming through windows she'd chosen. Peace she'd earned. Life she'd created. Ordinary moments. Extraordinary freedom. Victoria smiled, closed her eyes, breathed deeply, alive, safe, free. The story that began with champagne glass shattering and fists flying ended here, with quiet joy, with earned peace, with transformed power. Not happily ever after, that was fairy tale nonsense, but hopeful present, promising future, liberated now, that was enough, more than enough, that was everything. Victoria's story didn't end when Marcus went to prison. It began. Today, she's helping hundreds of women find their own courage, building shelters, changing laws, proving that survivors don't just survive, they transform. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Your engagement helps YouTube share Victoria's message with women who need to hear it. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Was it the trial, the birth, the final confrontation? I read every single comment, and your stories matter. Share this video with someone who needs hope. You never know who's suffering in silence. Your share could save a life. And subscribe to this channel for more true stories of courage, justice, and transformation. Stories that prove ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Remember, the prison door is unlocked. You just have to believe you deserve to walk through it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing survivors. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay strong, stay free, stay hopeful.